Hey folks, how's it going? Okay, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about bartering, and I've mentioned this in several of my previous videos about one of the preps that you need to be getting ready for, so that you have a means of obtaining what you need in the event that the economy does go into a full-on collapse, like some are expecting. And I wanted to go a little bit more into bartering, specifically as to what you would barter and how, or as best I can in any way. Now, bartering is a big subject among preppers. A lot of people talk about, and I know a lot of preppers that I've talked to have made a point of buying and stockpiling everything from cigarettes to alcohol to extra of whatever it is they prep, such as ammo, food, water, uh, water filters, you name it, and even silver and gold to some extent. Uh, and these are all fine. But I was reading a message board this morning, and I actually saw a comment that is actually why I wanted to make this video. The comment was essentially, why are you buying things specifically for bartering and trading when you need to be putting that money towards your own preps? And that's a very valid point. And that's primarily what I wanted to address in this video, although I want to touch on everything else. Um, you should not be buying anything to barter if you don't have all your bases covered for a minimum of 6 months to a year. Let me be upfront about that. That's my opinion. Um, and that's my personal opinion. Everybody else is going to have their own views on it, their own ideas, but you should not be buying anything to barter with if you don't have 6 months to a year minimum of food, water, defensive tools, what have you, on hand already, because you need to make sure that you and your family are taken care of before you even start to consider bartering with other people. Now, the caveat to that is skills, knowledge. If you have a skill set or some knowledge or the capability of doing certain things, uh, that's not necessarily an investment in materials so much as an investment in yourself, in your knowledge, in your skill, your abilities. And there are, of course, with any kind of trade you learn, there are certain material costs that go along with that. But I would highly recommend that if you do anything in terms of bartering now, if you're not at that 6 month to 1 year point, the only thing you should focus on is skills, simply because those skills would benefit not only you, but could be turned around to be used to barter for items that you need that you don't have. But primarily, it is skills that you would be needing for yourself and your family and your group, whatever you have. Uh, you're not putting out money unless it's on classes, and if you're paying for those classes, chances are that's a skill that you need for yourself and your group. So that's the one exception to the rule I have there. Um, but in terms of, let's use cigarettes for example. A lot of people talk about they buy the cheapest cigarettes or they buy loose tobacco and rolling papers and what have you, and they store those so that they can barter with people that like to smoke but they're out of cigarettes, so they can barter that for something that you need. Okay, that's all well and good, but again, if you don't have that 6 month to a year supply, buying that stuff is taking away from what you need to be buying for yourself. And it's kind of pointless to be buying to barter like that if you're not even going to be able to make it past 3 to 5 months. You need to make sure you are secure in your own group before you worry about trying to trade for anybody else's stuff. Again, and this is even more so if you're trying to stockpile something for a habit or a vice or what have you that you don't have yourself. So if you don't smoke, you're really not using your money efficiently if you stockpile cigarettes and tobacco and what have you for smokers to trade with them. Because again, that's money that you're not going to be able to use yourself. That's a material that you're not going to be able to use for yourself. Uh, if if you choose to stockpile something to barter with, make sure it's something you can use yourself. That way, if no opportunities for barter come up, you can use it yourself. You're not out any money. But if you don't smoke or don't drink and you stockpile cigarettes and tobacco and alcohol, then if you don't use that during a barter situation, then you're out because you can't use it yourself. Excuse me, folks. I'll be back in just a minute. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, so where was I? All right, so my point is, don't prep for barter unless you have 6 months to a year of your own basic needs met. Second, uh, when you do start prepping for barter, prep for to barter things that are something that if you don't use it in a barter situation, it's something that you can use yourself. Um, Lastly, at the very bottom of the list would be items that cater to people um, that have habits or wants or desires, whatever you have, uh, that you don't need yourself or that you don't use yourself. See, I don't drink, I don't smoke. So when I talk about prepping barterable items, the first things that I'm going to buy are things that I can trade with, but are also things that I'll use myself if I don't use them in trade. Things like cigarettes, tobacco, things like that. Those are going to be the last things I invest my hard-earned money for trade, because it makes no sense to be stockpiling things that have no value to me personally, uh, for just for the off chance that I might be able to trade with somebody using that. So primarily make sure that anything that you stockpile for barter is something that you can use yourself. That's just a way of ensuring that you're not throwing your money away needlessly. Uh, Second, a big thing that people talk about is food, um, bartering food, and some people even go so far as to make up 5 gallon buckets or even 1 gallon Ziploc bags and pack them with food items in preparation for barter or in preparation for people who come to the doors with their hands out. Uh, I don't see the point in doing that because you're setting aside food items separate from your own stockpile. I I don't see that there's going to be that many people coming to my door where I'm going to need a stack of ready-made buckets to hand out and barter with. Um, and the same goes for medical supplies. Some people, they automatically set up these little bags with certain medical supplies, or they divide their medications up into smaller containers so that they can barter them out. There's no need to do that pre SHCF, I should say, because you don't know that there's going to be a bunch of people coming to your door, and you're wasting time, energy, and materials to prep these items in that way. Uh, it's better to just deal with it when the time arises. Uh, if you know you're going somewhere where you're going to be able to barter, and you think somebody might be able to use it, then separate some stuff out. But yeah, you're just wasting time. You're being inefficient with your time, your resources, and your energy trying to prepackage items for a barter situation simply because, again, you don't know that you're going to have that many opportunities to barter like that. But second, what you prepackage, they might want more or they might want less than what you've prepackaged. So the value of the items that you're bartering is going to be highly dependent on the situation and the person you're dealing with. Uh, that's not something you can plan for ahead of time that easily. Another thing that people talk about stockpiling for barter is gold and silver. That's all well and good. Uh, I have some silver myself. It, granted that along with everything else I've said, that needs to come after you've made sure you have what you need for your basic needs well taken care of. Don't even touch silver, don't even touch barter items, certainly not gold, if you're not capable of taking care of yourself for 6 months to a year. Again, you're just wasting your resources and you're not being efficient with everything. But one of the big problems with gold and silver, and there's a lot of people out there say, well, you can't eat gold, you can't eat silver, and that's true. But that goes for a lot of preps. Uh, I can't eat the fuel for a generator. I can't eat batteries for a solar system. I can't eat bullets for a gun. But they all have their value. They all have their place. Gold and silver is the same way. It has its value. It has its place. And so long as you understand that value, that place, where it sits in your preps, and you don't try to overcompensate and you don't neglect more important areas for that, then you'll be okay. But the big thing to keep in mind with silver and gold uh, is that in the event of a full SHTF economic collapse, gold and silver will not have any real value during the collapse or immediately after. Now, granted, you might find one or two people, if you're lucky, that will understand its value and understand that in rebuilding society, gold and silver has always had value. Uh, so you might be lucky enough to find one or two people like that that were willing to take it in trade. Most people, during and immediately after an SHTF event, most people are going to want tangible assets that provide for them now. Be that, sorry, folks, be that food, water filters, fuel for vehicles or generators or what have you. Tangible items like that have an immediate value. Uh, Silver and gold won't have that kind of value, that barterable value, until quite a while after the event has happened, when people are actually starting to try to rebuild uh, a monetary system. That's where the value of silver and gold comes in. And again, that's why you should not prioritize that over your basic needs. Another item people talk about bartering is ammo. And that is a very controversial subject. I'm not comfortable bartering ammo for anything because I don't know that in that type of situation, somebody might turn around, they might have a gun, and I can barter the ammo to them for whatever they have that I need or that I could use. They might be able to turn around then and use that ammo and that gun against me. I'm not comfortable fueling their weapons that could potentially be turned against me. So, for that reason, ammo is not really on my barter list. Uh, Now, I'm not going to say I never would, because you never know what kind of situation comes up. You never know who you might be talking about. But in most instances, I'm not going to be willing to barter ammo. I'm certainly not going to barter away a firearm. The things I would be most comfortable bartering with: food, water, a water filter, uh, or certain medical supplies. Those are primarily the things that I would focus on bartering. And it's also things that I would be able to use myself, regardless of whether a barter situation comes up. And again, depending on the situation, depending on who you're talking to, what the event is like, that all depend that all determines the value of what you're bartering and what you're bartering for. Um, the time and the situation and the event will determine the value. The person you're dealing with will also help determine that value. That's not something you can pre-plan. It's easy to say, well, I'll trade, you know, a bottle of over-the-counter pain medicine for this. Well, you don't know that. The person that you're dealing with might not want that. They might not need it. They might have plenty of medicine on their own, or they might not, or they might really value it. There's just no way to know what that situation is going to be like. So, what I suggest is start dealing with people now, and if you have the opportunity, try to start bartering with people now so that you kind of learn the ropes. If you're not used to it, uh, practice bartering with people that you know. It not only will it save your money for other things, but it'll give you the practice of, okay, what would you take for that in trade? What would you? I mean, because there's a lot, people are always wanting to trade things for something else, and that gives you a great opportunity to build that skill. That's a knowledge base. That's a skill in itself that a lot of people could use this time for, to develop that skill so that you're not taken advantage of during an emergency. Uh, I had one more thing that I was going to talk about when it comes to barter, and you know what? I've got so much going on in my mind, it's gone. uh, but I hate when that happens, don't you, folks? But no, that's my advice. Build those networks now so that you can get used to that, learn those skills. There you go. That's what it was, the skills. Uh, what I started the video off with is learning a skill, taking a class to learn a skill, uh, whether it's a medical skill, whether it's welding or fabrication or machining or blacksmithing or raising livestock, what have you, working on cars. All of those skills are skills that can benefit you in multiple ways, whether it's a skill that you need to do something for yourself, whether it's a skill you can use now to make money on the side, or if it's a skill that you can trade for. Say you need something after an emergency. Sorry, folks, that's a school bus going down the road. If there's something you need in an emergency and you don't have it, you can say, well, I know how to do this, 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 and this. Do you have need of one of these skill sets? Is this something that I can barter with you with? Uh, Carpentry, plumbing, electrical work. There's a whole uh, world of skills out there that you can develop now that you can use to barter with in an emergency. And the good thing about a skill is, aside from the material costs involved, which that does sometimes happen, but not always, the good thing about a skill is it's a never ending resource. Once you know how to do it, you know how to do it. And you can market that out to as many people as you need to. Uh, and that skill, you'll still always retain that skill. It's non depletable. It's a perishable skill in a lot of cases. And not all skills are permanent. So a lot of them are perishable, but uh, it's one of those things that if I have a finite number of this item and I barter it with that, well, then I've reduced my uh, stockpile of that particular item. That's not the same with skills. Skills, you can indefinitely trade that skill out in exchange for goods, and that makes it invaluable. So your first prep for barter, if you're looking at anything for barter, your first prep should be skills. Build yourself a skill set that covers a wide range of subjects. The more skills that you have, the more knowledge you have, the more valuable you'll be to other people. Anyway, that's all I've got. I hope you found this useful. I appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't. And as always, keep prepping, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your family. And until next time, folks, I'll catch you later.